If you grew up in the 1970s, society tells you exactly who you are. You are supposedly just someone blinded by nostalgia, longing for a time when kids drank from the garden hose and played outside until the streetlights came on. But here is the uncomfortable truth. You aren't just nostalgic for a simpler time. The unmonitored, physically risky environment of the 1970s actually performed a permanent, structural rewiring of your nervous system. It created a generation equipped with an unshakable resilience, but it also left you carrying a quiet, hidden psychological weight that younger generations simply cannot understand. Before we uncover the 7 psychological traits that prove exactly why the minds of 70s kids are built entirely different, I want you to do something right now. Drop a comment below and tell me, what was the one unspoken rule of your 1970s neighborhood that you had to figure out entirely on your own? To truly understand how your mind operates today, we have to look back at the exact physical reality where your nervous system was programmed. You didn't grow up in a curated, supervised bubble. You grew up in a rare window of modern history where freedom was not symbolic, it was physical. And that freedom forged these 7 distinct psychological traits. Trait number 1, intrinsic motivation and the alchemy of boredom. Back then, "I'm bored" was a dangerous sentence. If you said it out loud, you already knew what was coming. An adult would immediately hand you a chore. So you learned to solve boredom before it solved you. Empty time wasn't treated as a problem to fix or an emergency to neutralize. It was simply part of the day. Psychologically, when children are left to organize their own time, they develop stronger executive function, the mental skills responsible for planning and self-regulation. But more importantly, without screens to rescue your attention, your focus turned inward. You built forts out of discarded plywood and rusty nails, and you did it without needing a gold star or a round of applause. Your nervous system learned that engagement itself was the reward. You developed intrinsic motivation, an ability to generate your own purpose that makes you incredibly comfortable sitting in empty space today. Trait number 2, accurately calibrated threat assessment. You didn't learn about danger from a warning label or a supervised safety video. You learned it by living inside your body. You climbed trees that were too high, rode bikes without helmets, and played on towering iron playgrounds over unyielding asphalt. And sometimes you fell. Research in developmental psychology shows that children who engage in physical risk develop a much more accurate threat assessment as adults. Every scraped knee and bruised elbow taught your amygdala a crucial lesson. This hurts, but it isn't catastrophic. Your nervous system learned to distinguish between real danger and manageable risk. This is exactly why today, chaos does not scramble you the way it seems to rattle others. When a crisis hits, your first instinct isn't to dramatically panic, it's to assess, stabilize, and solve. Your body learned early that urgency does not require panic. Trait number 3, an internal locus of control. By the time you were 8 or 9 years old, you were managing a level of independence that would alarm modern society. You left the house in the morning, and the only rule was to be back before the streetlights came on. You navigated your neighborhood using judgment, intuition, and trial and error. Research on childhood autonomy proves that unsupervised freedom strengthens an internal locus of control, the absolute belief that your actions matter and your decisions carry weight. When no one is watching, choices become real. You didn't need to ask permission for every step you took. You assessed the situation, weighed the risks, and acted without seeking external approval. Trait number 4, the power of delayed gratification. You lived in a world where waiting was built into the very fabric of existence. If you wanted to watch your favorite television show, you waited an entire week. If you wanted to talk to a friend, you memorized their number, called their house, and had to politely bypass their parents just to see if they were home. Nothing arrived instantly. Psychologically, This shaped your relationship with reward. When gratification is delayed, dopamine isn't dumped all at once. It is released gradually through anticipation and effort. This trained your brain to develop incredibly strong impulse control. While modern systems flood the brain with instant rewards, training dissatisfaction, your nervous system learned that wanting something didn't mean getting it immediately, and that delay didn't diminish its value. Trait number 5, a profound capacity for solitude. You were the original latchkey kids. You came home to an empty house, let yourself in with a key on a string around your neck, and figured out the afternoon entirely on your own. But this didn't make you lonely, it made you sovereign. You learned how to be alone before being alone became something to fear. Studies show that people who grew up without constant connectivity experience significantly less anxiety when left alone with their thoughts. Your nervous system does not interpret silence as a problem that needs fixing. You don't need continuous entertainment or external validation to feel regulated. Solitude isn't isolation for you. It is a native language where your identity developed internally, not through a digital reflection. Trait number 6, mechanical intuition and the fixer mindset. You grew up in an era where the things you owned were not mysterious black boxes. You could see the gears, and you were expected to understand how they worked. When your bike chain slipped, you didn't wait for a professional. You flipped the bike upside down, got grease on your hands, and worked the chain back onto the sprocket. When the TV went fuzzy, you adjusted the rabbit ears or checked the tangled RCA cables. You were building a mechanical intuition, a deep, quiet certainty that if something in the physical world was broken, it was your job to figure out why. This forged an unshakable confidence. You didn't feel helpless when things stopped working perfectly because you assumed that with a little patience and effort, you could master the physical world. Trait number 7, the silent burden of emotional compression. But here is the plot twist, the hidden trap that highly independent minds from the 1970s often fall into. When you grow up learning that nobody is coming to rescue you, you don't just learn to be independent, you learn to be invisible on purpose. You learned that comfort was not guaranteed and that you had to solve your problems quietly. This created a profound emotional compression. You feel things just as deeply as anyone else, but you were raised in a culture where feelings were treated as an inconvenience. So you learned a survival skill, emotional minimalism. You don't say you're overwhelmed, you just handle it. You became highly capable, the person everyone else leans on in a crisis. But hyper-independence has a price tag. You grew up learning, I have to do this, rather than I can do this, which makes it incredibly difficult for you to ask for support, even when you are silently drowning. Your coping strategy became your personality. If you look at the modern world and feel like you are operating on a completely different frequency, it is not because you are broken, outdated, or cynical. Your nervous system is simply calibrated for depth over speed, substance over signal, and quiet competence over loud performance. You carry the earned wisdom of a survivor who learned how to build a fire when the world went cold. You do not need to become louder or more visible to stay relevant, because your quiet strength is the very foundation holding everything else together. If this video helped you recognize yourself or understand someone you love, you are not alone here. This channel is a space for understanding the quieter psychological patterns that shape how we think, connect, and move through the world. If you found this meaningful, consider subscribing so you do not miss future conversations. And remember to drop a comment below about your own journey. Your perspective might help someone else finally feel understood. Thank you for watching.